Okay, so if you have the component parts now, and you understand that reading is an integration of those parts, then the next question is, what are the sensory cognitive, those sensory functions that I was talking about? What do they come under? Which parts does that apply to? And I'll just tell you right now that phonological awareness and symbol imagery most significantly apply to that. And then as those are intact, you can read in context better. But if you don't have those intact, where you have words memorized or words that you can sound out when you come to them, then your fluency in reading on the page is going to be impacted. And now, so you have that other one that I said about the white horse running on the green grass and tripping over the, I think it was a stream. I think I said a stream, as I have to call on my own imagery. That is concept imagery, and that is the whole comprehension circle. So what we find clinically is that we have basically two types of students that have that come to our learning centers that have difficulty processing language. And those are the students that have weak decoding or weak comprehension, or they can have both. They can have weakness in both. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those. For example, some students that we see come to us with a label, we don't label them, of dyslexic or dyslexia. They have dyslexia, someone has said. And so let me show you why that might be. Let's just say that this is a student that I frequently talk about named Lance, and Lance was a student that I worked with that was in high school, been held back once and was dropping out of school. And the reason that he was dropping out of school was that his word attack skills were at a 2nd grade level. His word recognition skills were at a 5th grade level, and he was in 10th grade. He had been in special education and reading and summer school every year. When I saw him, he was in 10th grade. And he was done. He was cooked. He was labeled ADD. He was on numerous medications. He had many phonics programs. He'd had almost every reading program that they could do, and he still couldn't read because he was at the 2nd grade level in word attack, the 5th grade level in word recognition, and he was actually 5.8, which is 5th grade, 8th month in reading paragraphs. And so one of the questions you want to be asking yourself is, what was his oral vocabulary? Because if Lance's oral vocabulary, if his potential was that of a 2nd grader, then these would be good scores. Okay, but in fact, Lance's PPVT, which I'm going to show you in a minute, was that of a 17-year-old. It was 1710 mental age. So he was over a year above his chronological, which was 16. Or 15, actually. So the point is that he had the potential to understand and read language, but in terms of oral vocabulary, but he had weakness in phonological awareness and symbol imagery. And so he would look at a word like stream and say steam and not know he'd left out the R. He didn't get any signal from his sensory system that he was omitting a sound in a letter. And it got worse when he was trying to learn his 10th grade material. He could look at immigration and say imagination. And that completely fouled up his written language comprehension. So WL stands for written language comprehension. How do you think his oral language comprehension was? Just make a wild guess. You don't have to speak up, but yes, someone has their thumb up. Yes, if his mother read his history to him or his biology to him, he could understand it. The issue was that he couldn't decode. So he was dyslexic, and we could identify where the weakness was. We could identify the cause of it. We didn't skirt around it. We didn't say, uh-oh, that's weak, so we're not going to touch it. Instead, what we did is we developed those and helped him apply it. Now we have the other part. If I take you back here, here's the other part of the spectrum. Okay? Now, this student is flip-flop from Lance. This is a student that I frequently talk about. Her name is Michelle. kindergarten, when I saw her through 12th grade. When I saw her, she was in 12th grade, and this was her situation. She was above the 12th grade in word attack, above the 12th grade in word recognition, and she could read anything in paragraphs. She was above the 12th grade. And so when she was going to drop out of school in her senior year, no one knew why, and they thought it was that she wasn't motivated, the very common thing that happens with this kind of a disability, because she could read anything. She could spell pusillanimous phonetically on a spelling test. She maxed the word attack test. She maxed the word recognition test. She looks like someone that should be able to read and answer questions, but she cannot. And so her situation was that while all of these skills were very, very, very strong, and no one, by the way, she did not go to any special education classes. She did not go to any tutoring, a little bit in 4th grade. But by the time she gets into high school, she's failing enough classes that she can't graduate with her class. Didn't have enough credits. And so her situation was that her comprehension was at the 9th percentile. So there was this enormous gap between her ability to decode, and her vocabulary was good, and her comprehension. So we worked with her to develop her concept imagery. Again, we were diagnosing where's the problem and what can we do for it. Now, this is when you get to learn about these evaluations, and I'm going to take you through the first one, which is Ryan, and show you some of these tests. I want you to know that you'll look at grade levels, you'll look at age equivalents, where they just take a raw score. All these tests take a raw score. They're not our tests. They're a variety of standardized tests. And they convert to grade level, age equivalent, and also percentile. And also standard scores. We have standard scores on all the tests that we give. I did not put them on here for this morning because they're a little bit more difficult to interpret. You want to, obviously, grade level is easy to interpret. Age equivalent would be easily interpreted. A percentile, it looks like this. This is the 50th percentile. Here's the 75th. Here's the 25th percentile. Goes 1st to 99th. This, and you need to know this, and I would mark this on my paper because I'm going to test you on it. The 25th to the 75th percentile is normal range of function. This is right in the middle. Okay? So if you see someone at the 37th percentile, it's not a strength, but it's not way down at the weak area, and that would be something that we would want to work with that student on. We don't want the students to be at the 37th percentile. We want them to be in a situation of strength. If you see a student scoring up in here, 75th percentile and above, that particular test or skill or sensory cognitive function is a strength for them. Anything down here, it's a weakness. Have you got it? So I want you to write down your paper right now. If I score at the 10th percentile, is that a weakness or a strength? Yes. Okay. 88th. Okay. 67th. It's within normal range, but it's on the high side of the 50th percentile. So the purpose of these evaluations that you're going to see is to identify strengths and weaknesses, find the cause, and most importantly, recommend appropriate instruction. I see instruction happening in public schools and in other private tutoring sessions where someone is doing something with that student that they don't need. It's a waste of time. And that's why the evaluation is so important. So, to end, this is how I want you to be thinking of reading with comprehension. By the way, this is not accurate. All reading is with comprehension. There is no reason to read without getting meaning. But I put it on there because there are some people that think that reading is just decoding. So underlying this, as you go through these steps, learning to sound out words, learning to recognize words, applying that over to context, if you want to think of these circles again, underlying all of that is the sensory cognitive factors. So there are all these students that we're lucky enough to see, and tons more, thousands and thousands of them we've seen. And my parting message is that an accurate diagnosis diagnostic learning evaluation can lead to differentiated instruction. And I think we can do better, and this is always my parting message. Thank you very much.